You're listening to Always Building.
Welcome to Always Building. It's not every day that you get to have a discussion with somebody that has kind of the humility and the right attitude about building a business, about living life. As we get to in this episode, our guest's name is Cam Duncan, and he's a very exciting up and coming web designer and entrepreneur that I'm just ecstatic to have interviewed, and I think you guys are going to get a lot from this episode. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's go ahead and jump in. All right, Cam Duncan, the illustrious Cam Duncan, welcome to the podcast. This is going to be pretty loose, as we talked about. I think we'll just have some fun and chat about the journey and kind of where you've been, where you're headed, and I'd love to just kind of kick it off by asking you kind of where did you get started, a little bit of background on where you're coming from, geographically, educationally, anything you want to kind of fill in the gaps there.
Yeah, no problem, man. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And to the Cold Crowd community, I say hello. So if you can't tell already by my accent, I'm obviously from Australia, and I've lived in America for the past 5 years before like the world went crazy and I had to come back and get situated with my family and stuff. But what that led to, because I was originally over in the States playing basketball, so I play basketball as my other life, and I was over there playing basketball, but I decided to come back, and then I realized I couldn't play, so that was my one source of income / just doing things completely shut off because the whole world had gone. So I'd been doing web design in my college dorm room, the classic story. Like, I started out of my dorm room, but I really wasn't making any money at that stage. Like, back when I was in the dorm room, I was learning, I was teaching myself what to do. I was trying to make Shopify sites without knowing how to code. I had no clue what I was doing. I was literally I was lost. But just due to pure necessity, I had to learn a new skill. I was just like, what am I going to do? So I got a 9-to-5 just to get things rolling back in Australia, like get back on my feet, get things going. But in the meantime, I was before and after work just teaching myself. Like, I was going through the Webflow free documentation, just learning on Twitter, learning. Like, I was learning business and web design simultaneously. So I'm
curious, what was the 9-to-5 that you took? Like, what when you hit that wall?
I originally started. I was just a call center originally. So I started there. I was doing the call center, but then I had a few other skills like managerial stuff from my degree. My degree is in business management, but through that I leveled up in the industry, and I was doing systems analysis at one point. So creating project management tasks and stuff like that.
Awesome. So back to Webflow. So you were just building, doing stuff, taking action there on that.
Yeah. So, but doing that in my 9-to-5 actually helped me do this process, because I'm like, okay, like, I've been analyzing and building systems for huge business. Then I go back to running a business of one, and I have to systemize that. But it's actually harder to systemize a business of one than it is a business of 1,000 somehow. But I kept rolling with Webflow, and then I literally just was grinding Twitter, just like working for free, because I needed inspiration. It's actually hard. It's hard to build a website without inspiration. Like, you follow tutorials, sure, but it looks exactly like the tutorial. Right. Whereas if you actually try and use creativity, then it starts to look a lot worse. And you're like, oh, I haven't learned anything. But when you use inspiration from someone that you follow, and I started with like the cold email wizard. I made him one just because he was the main guy I was following at the time. Made him a website, posted it on Twitter, and then I got my lucky break. He retweeted it, and then I just got an influx of followers. I was like, what's this? Like, I'm famous. I'm Twitter famous. And I was so happy. Like, that was more exciting than like any like basketball game winning shot or whatever. Wow. I was just like, let's go. I'm like, I'm hyped, because like it's something that I wasn't naturally talented in at first. I grinded, I learned it, and then I saw success. And my success was working for free and someone accepting my free work. But I was still so happy.
It's a win, though. It's a win, man. When you're getting going, it's like you got to get, just that feedback, right? Just any kind of feedback, and you get a result, and it's like, hey, and you get to share the result. And in your case, I mean, thankfully, you got the influx of followers, the influx of you can start to make an influence on people with this. So that's awesome, man. And what kind of stuff did you sort of take inspiration from? I'm sort of curious. Like, were you looking at mostly like tech stuff, or sort of funnels, or just clicking on ads, or how were you navigating that?
So I started from my business learnings, I became obsessed with Russell Brunson and the funnel community, because I did, but what didn't make sense to me was the design side of things. Like the funnel layout and the structure and the copywriting is all top tier, but the ClickFunnels design wasn't very good. And it's just part of their builder is it doesn't allow you the capabilities that obviously Webflow does. So I was always curious around that. I was like, all right, I saw opportunity in that point. I'm like, well, these funnels are converting at a higher rate. What would happen if someone came in and made well-designed funnels? So that's where I first started trying to go down that road, is combining Webflow with the ClickFunnels mindset. And I saw a lot of success with that, and I probably did that for about the first 6 months. Was like, all right, I would take people's courses or their businesses or whatever, and turn them into funnels, but use Webflow to make them look really good. But then now I'm more leaning towards going back to just doing straight landing pages and sites, just because that's purely what Webflow is built for. Trying to duct tape a solution of funnels with Webflow was getting too many issues were occurring, and I couldn't actually systemize that. So now at scale, I just want to offer the design part to something that's very, very scalable. So that's why I'm now leaning back towards away from funnels, even though a landing page is still a funnel. I understand that, but the traditional one-click upsells and all that kind of stuff. But more just leaning towards that top of funnel landing page is where I'm going now. But that's where I originally gained inspiration from was Russell Brunson. And if you're listening to this and you want to get into this space, read every one of his books, listen to every podcast. It's a business. I have a business degree, and I would hold Russell Brunson's book up and say this is more valuable than
Well, he gives you these frameworks, that you can work from. It's just like little triggers, and you start to understand the psychology of it, and it's like that whole. It's more than just the design, as you mentioned, right? Like the funnel is definitely more of a psychological. There's all these things to kind of support that. So that's amazing. That's awesome, actually, to hear that you're kind of going from. I think this would be kind of surprising for some folks, because even for me, just that you're going kind of away from the funnel world and sort of Webflow, the technology in a way is sort of guiding you back to, I wouldn't say the traditional, but the obviously the more robust website, right? The website that kind of it's because, again, I mean, we can talk about this a little bit. It's just that the buyer journey, especially in B2B, if you're talking about courses Cold Email Wizard and these other guys, these kind of B2B esque, even though they sort of lean into B2C, I guess, but these buying decisions that people are making where they're going on a journey, they're doing their research, it's no longer are people really getting a cold email and buying right away. It does happen some percentage of the time, but I think more so now people want to explore the stuff. They want a recommendation from a friend. They want to read content. They want to see, there has to be some expertise behind that. So, I mean, I'm curious, because obviously, like you said, a website is a funnel in a whole nother, in a whole nother sense, right? It's not a one-page funnel with upsells. It's more of a customer journey, lots of touch points within the thing, and then it all kind of leads to wherever those conversions go. So I'm kind of curious, what's your kind of ethos on sort of building websites, and how do you try to kind of funnel people around the website in a logical way?
So my thinking behind it is that, like you said, people want to explore around. So if you don't land people on that initial call to action, you put out a tweet or you put out a YouTube video or whatever, and it leads directly to a landing page. If that shot misses, or people they see your name, they see your product, and then they open a new tab and they type in your name, what pops up? Like, what pops up? Like, is it legit? Like, is this guy legit? That's like, I want eventually, like, I'm still obviously working through it and I'm learning all this as I go, but I want eventually people to be able to type in my name and up pops a bunch of supporting documentation of everything that I've done. And I want that all to be in one centralized place, because then I have control over where that traffic goes. So if someone looks up a blog post about me or that I've written, I want at the bottom of that blog post me to be able to control what that call to action at the bottom says. Like, I want to be able to have full control over that. So I think, yes, the traditional website is dead, I suppose, but there's a new hybrid of building your funnels and building your like your sales opportunities on the back end of this, like, of the traditional way, which is like blog posts, case studies, reviews, merchandise, storefronts, and all that kind of thing. Like, people aren't doing that kind of stuff yet. I think they're going to. Like, I think they're going to. People are going to realize, like, all right, I can build a Twitter profile to 20K followers. I can start, I can build an agency to 10K a month. I can start selling a course then. But that everyone's doing that. Like, and I'm not knocking any of that, but I'm just saying I think it's going to get to the point where people start to get scammed one too many times, and they go looking on Google, like, is this guy legit? And you want something to pop up when that's the case, because if you are legit, you have no fear of what pops up when someone Googles you. You encourage it, right? So that's what my ethos behind going back to the traditional way, but then hybrid, combining it with funnels on the back end of that.
Well, SEO is so powerful, man. I mean, I definitely want to dig into that a bit and just your thoughts on that. Because I mean, SEO is like one of these things, like, I'm partnered with this company, ListKit, and, we launched the site, we're creating content. One of my first priorities was just, let's get guest posts, like, immediately. Like, let's just go out, let's reach out to people, let's get our blogs on other sites, let's link back to it. Because it's like, once that flow of people, like you say, they kind of see your name somewhere, whether it's social media or YouTube or wherever you're, doing your thing, and then they sort of Google it in and they go, what is this? What exactly is this brand? Or, you're doing ads and they're hitting them, but they're not like, totally sold. They don't want to click an ad. There's also, I think, that sort of psychology. Like, people are just, like you said, people are getting scammed, and they're a little like distrusting of anything these days. Like, and so they're sort of vetting things. And I think, like the blog, the SEO traffic, the whole thing, it just creates this expertise. And like you said, it's top of the funnel. So do you do a lot of SEO on your sites, or have you ever delved into that? What are your upsells, I guess, is my question. Like, how do you sort of monetize, like, what you're doing? Because I know when I was building websites, it's exciting to build a website, but when you actually see the traffic hit it, that's when you're like, that's when the whole thing gets activated, and you're like, oh yeah, all right, cool. Hey, what else can we do? How can we make it better, right?
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, like, straight away, my upsell is the conversion rate optimization. So I install the analytics, I install the Facebook pixel and all that stuff, and then we run traffic to that landing page or that website, and we try and optimize it. So that's my upsell currently. Obviously, like you said, me going down this path, and like we spoke about earlier, like, I've literally tripped and fell into this space, and like, time is catching up quicker than I can even run. So I'm tripping, I'm stumbling down the hill, and new opportunities like SEO, like ads, all this stuff is like coming at me, and I'm like, all right, what am I going to focus on? And I nailed down on conversion rate optimization, but also, like you said, the opportunity lies there for so many people to build websites that are SEO optimized. Like, you could just focus on getting 2 to 3 clients a month or every 2 months, and just making a huge site with all this SEO optimization, and you could turn their business around. Like just turn it around, and just it's a moat.
It's an instant moat, isn't it? Like, just having like organic traffic, your valuation of that company just goes up instantly, right?
Yeah, and like, my best example is Zapier. I don't know the pronunciation in America, but I call it Zapier.
No one does.
They did the SEO game like on 1,000. Like, they did it to the max. They've created pages for every single integration, and then every single integration that connects to that integration. So
Insanity, man.
Yeah, so you can type
and it's
in
all dynamic, right? It's all dynamic. So it's just they're literally like sitting back, and those pages just go and go and go
on
as
top
they
of one another. So they've built out the opportunity for people to type in any SaaS tool, and they're about the third or fourth ranked on that search. So if you think about that in terms of building your, like, and obviously most people that listen to this are B2B. So if you're building your agency website, don't forget about the blog. Don't forget about the case study. Don't forget about like you could do blog posts about the tools that you work with, so that when someone types in Webflow agency, I will pop up first, because in my blog post I've written 4 or 5 about Webflow and how we use it and all that sort of stuff, right?
Right.
Now we've done a little rebrand, so that's all a work in progress coming to the new site. But in 2 weeks, because we know all this stuff, we'll be ranking because of that reason, because no one else is doing it, which is obviously a benefit to us. But it's just a little bit of those like back end works that you can do to really push your B2B business to the next level. Like cold email, awesome, it works. Like DM cold outreach, it works. But why not build the whole, like it's called that omni-channel thing, right? Where instead of you going to someone like cold, why don't have them find you and then come to you warm, and you're going to close them a lot easier, right?
Well, man, and you have this whole, I mean, you know, and what you're kind of talking about, what you're inferring into, I think, is demand generation. It's the full flywheel basically that's going out. Like there's outbound involved, then there's inbound involved, then there's, and you know, I think we're diving into some really fun stuff here, because I think this is something that I study. I mean, I'm just like a super nerd about this stuff. Yeah. And I recently read, I can imagine, I recently read this book called No Forms, No Spam, No Cold Calls is the name of the book. And it's by, she's a CMO of Sixth Sense, which is like an intent data, you know, kind of more sales focused thing, but she's on the marketing end. And, the ethos is kind of, I mean, obviously it's pretty complex stuff, and it's mostly for enterprise level stuff is what she's kind of talking about, but applying some of the principles, it's like putting like the email opt-in over a really valuable piece of content and trying to get an email is getting less effective over time, right? The idea of doing that as well. And the idea of doing like a webinar, right? This is the old school way, was like, the HubSpot way is like doing like a webinar, and then sales reps follow up with everybody that signed up for the webinar. Hey, would you like, right? Would you like, you were on the webinar, would you like to buy now? And people are kind of like, no, all right. I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to get, like, I wanted to, you seem like an expert. I wanted to prove that. I wanted to know you were an expert. I want to learn a couple of skills. I want to kind of try to do it myself, maybe, or, you know, there's like this, more organic journey that's happening now, where it's like, you know, there's these triggers when you kind of know people want to buy, and that's when they like book a sales call. Well, obviously when they check out on the site or whatever, add something to their cart. There's these like sort of like bottom of the funnel kind of like, you know, things that happen. But until they're down there, you don't want to like interject with some salesy thing, I guess, is kind of what's happening more and more, right? And you want to let them go on the journey, but you want to stay top of mind at the same time, right? So it's kind of like what you're talking about. Like you got this SEO traffic. Maybe they book us a call with a sales rep, and then that sales rep reaches out and confirms the call and gives them a bunch of case studies and stuff, right? It's like, but yeah, it's just very interesting to see, I think, how this world is evolving and how that website doesn't have the email opt-ins or anything anymore. It just needs to be like, free information, go down the journey, join the email list if you want to, right? Like real low pressure. And it seems like you're kind of going in that route, or going down that path. So.
Yeah. Well, I've just noticed these things, like, because I obviously, like I said, I studied the ClickFunnels. Man, I've watched and consumed every piece of content, and I'm like, I just want to be that. I just want to do that, right? But then I started to notice that because everybody's having that realization, they all want to be like how I am. They want to be the Russell Brunson. Not everyone can be it, so that the competition creates that gap, and it makes the customer actually the journey longer, because they now, instead of just, you know, straight just trusting and going on a webinar and being like, yes, this person has my best interest in mind. Unfortunately, some people don't have people's best interest in mind. So now you're battling against people doing the exact same tactics as you. that aren't as legitimate, which is it's life. It's how life goes. People like we had someone. I posted the thread that of me with the new agency. Someone went and screenshotted the websites and then put them on their Instagram story and said DM me for websites. And I'm like, oh, I can't win. I can't even, but the trust factor is so big now that giving away free information is the only way to prove your legitimacy, right? And that's where people on Twitter are sort of getting caught up. And I talk about Twitter, but every social media where people share information, people are getting caught up in the fact of like, oh, if I share information, then you give me money eventually. It's not the case. Like you help people, and eventually enough people will see that you're genuine, and they'll come to you, right? So that's my ethos. I might make $0 for the next year, but I'm going to share information because I'm sharing my journey. If people like it and they want to work, like cool, I'm on board. But that's why I believe that service business up front is the way to do it. Jumping straight into trying to sell information, it doesn't work.
Well, it's kind of like you have to have done something to sell information.
Exactly.
Like at the end of the day, like it's kind of like you're putting the cart before the horse, as we say in America or something. It's like something weird going on there, chicken or the egg or something.
Yeah.
You have to have that, like, and I think the best courses. I mean, the best coaches, the best courses, the best mentors I've had have been weird people, to be honest with you. And I think, in this podcast, that's kind of one of my goals, actually, to get a lot of these weird people on the podcast that aren't necessarily the, not necessarily on Twitter, not necessarily in, the business community even, right? They're like weird, musicians and people that have just kind of like created something for themselves. Cause it's, you got to have experiences to sell information. Like the experiences are what make these people the most interesting. Like every coach I've had, it's only been the experiences that he was able to like impart that were interesting. I think the actual knowledge, the actual like hardcore information presentations, you can sort of get anywhere. But it's like you kind of learn from this cat, and you're kind of like, this guy's got an interesting story. He's got an interesting mindset on the thing. I'm intrigued by it. It's like that, and I think that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on this too, is sort of the journey. Like you started like, you were playing basketball. What a departure from anything else we're talking about, right? Like just, I started in skateboarding. I actually wanted to be a pro skateboarder. Like when I was in high school, you know what I mean? I was like, I got like concussions. I mean, I was going hard trying to be a pro skateboarder, like couldn't do it anymore. Same deal. And then similar journey. I kind of got into websites sort of by accident too. And it's like, over the years, it's just so much has changed, and you kind of have to keep learning, and that's the other thing I think about courses, where people kind of just rest on their laurels and just kind of go, okay, here's my course, and nothing's changing, right? It's kind of like a get rich quick scheme. It's like, no, things are changing. Like you're talking about going from working in a 9-to-5 as like systems analysts and doing project management type stuff. And then you're getting into, Webflow, you're getting into Russell Brunson, you're seeing that these ClickFunnels look like shit. You're going, okay, I'm going to rebuild these in Webflow. And then you're going, wait a second, Webflow is not really, wait a second, whoa, there's this whole world out here. Wait a second, whoa, it's like just a wild journey that you're on, basically.
And that's why I went the service route at first. Like, one of transactions, like you buy a website from me in January, you're going to receive and then you buy a website from me in July, you're going to receive a different person, because I've grown so much in 6 months that like I know this, I add this in, I've learned this, because every single day I'm trying to learn, man. Like I'm trying to get better. And that's why I started out charging. One of my now business partners has absolutely roasted me for how low I was charging. And I was like, man, like I'm not charging high prices whenever I don't feel confident in what I'm selling. And that's probably bad advice, but that was just my ethos at the start. But now I feel fully confident in what I charge, because I genuinely believe like I put in hundreds of hours, man, the same way I would like playing basketball, right? To learn and be the best at what I do, because there is no way I would ever feel comfortable getting paid to go step out on a court and not knowing I've practiced to my full ability. Or
it's that training, right? Yeah, exactly. It's that training. You're training your mind, you're training your skills all the time, and the web stuff too. And ideas like we're talking about here with like demand gen, the future, you could say the future of marketing, I think, to a certain extent. Like I think it's more genuine. I mean, in my ethos anyway, it's like more genuine content. I think the more genuine and transparent, like your Twitter is a great example, man. I mean, you drop a thread, It's extremely genuine. It's extremely transparent. You're not like holding too much back. You're holding a little bit back, of course, because it's just, it's the format is the
stuff you
format.
need. Yeah, you need that unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to go give the thing, but you're giving such great transparent information. You're doing it in a format that's like easy to ingest, and you're not coming off as like, you're not coming off as like, I'm the expert. I know everything. Listen to me. You're like, hey man, this is sort of what we're doing now. Check it out. And I think that, this kind of genuine content, this sort of genuine stuff is sort of where the flywheel goes now. I don't think that the, official like webinar content with the sales reps at the end and it's almost like what you were saying about system analysis on like bigger companies. Yeah, bigger companies are slower to change, and so you have a lot of these, like a lot of people, me included. I used to go to these big agency websites. I go on Clutch, or even before Clutch, I go find these big agencies, Googling around, and I'd see them, and they're like these web design agencies, and they're charging like 15 grand, and I'm like, fuck, man, I want to be that. I want to get there. You know what I mean? But like, God, they're so big. How am I ever going to catch up with it? And at some point you kind of realize like, you don't want to catch up with this. They're in a place where they're like fixed. They're like metal. And as things start to change, the results start to wane, and they have to kind of keep doing the same shit, even though they know it's not the right. Like it's not the right way. And so kind of being smaller like you are right now, just being able to like be more nimble, it gives you a bunch of advantages actually in the sales.
That's exactly what I want to be, because I'm fully self-aware that I don't know everything, right? I'm fully self-aware of that. So I'm completely okay with that, because I know eventually I'll know a little bit more and a little bit more and a little. But anyway, my point being, I want to remain liquid. Like, how people say liquid in terms of money.
Yeah.
That liquidity means freedom. I can go and I can put my cash in real estate. I can go and put my cash in stocks, crypto, whatever. I want to remain liquid in my business, because Webflow might go down tomorrow. Like something might change. Like this morning, where all Webflow CMS items just vanished for 2 hours. They just went down. Yeah. So like, there's me like going crazy at 5 a.m. in the morning because of the time zone. Like,
oh man,
server crashes aren't friendly to the time zones. But
no.
My point being is that you want to remain liquid in these early stages of building this stuff, because naturally I've learned copy. Naturally I've learned graphic design. Right. Naturally I've learned theory behind conversion rate optimization. So if you just in metal, and then you immediately hire in 3 or 4 VAs, and you bring in like a project manager and a salesman, and then you got overhead, you're no longer liquid. You've got people that are relying.
It's funny that you say that, actually, man, because I think, there's a big obsession with scaling right now. I think everybody, like, it's like, I don't know what book it's from or where, I'm not exactly sure where it all came from, to be honest, but I know that everybody is about scaling. It's like, can it scale? And I think there's one side of that is more theoretical. It's like, is the TAM big enough to where customers are coming in every day needing a web design's a great example of that. Like there's businesses being started every single day that are eventually going to need a website redesign to take it to the next level, right? Like they can start with ClickFunnels, they can start with
just
whatever
template or whatever,
the fuck, Bootstrap. It doesn't matter what they use, right? Whatever's the easiest. And then eventually they're going to go, God damn, this system's not really like sustainable. What am I going to do? And they're coming in every single day. So your TAM is like expanding forever. There's never going to be, there's never not going to be a time where someone needs a fucking website, right? Like there's just never going to be that time. So, that's scalable in one context, right? But that idea that you need to like, okay, I have the business idea. I got a result maybe for myself or for my network or somebody, someone for free or for cheap. Now I'm going to go boom, like hire everybody, hire the shop. I want to get like 100 clients immediately. It's sort of like you're asking for so many problems, and it kind of pays off to stay small.
Don't do that. Like if you're listening to this and then because literally what Alex just said, I did that. So I was like, I'm going to scale.
Me too, man.
You're like, I'm going to scale. I'm going to be the world's biggest web design agency. And then I'm sitting here thinking that I'm going to be the one sitting on the beach, chilling, just watching the money roll in, right? But the truth is that the genuine truth, and I don't know what the gurus are saying because I'm not a guru, but like, you need to put in the work if you want to make the money, man. I'm sorry. Like you're going to have to, like there are ways to do it. Yes. And I may be wrong, but I promise you, if you just stick to it and you provide the service for the first 6 months, you're going to be in a lot better space, because you know the problems, you know how to fix the problems yourself, and the overhead will be so low. You can be so agile. Like
And you know how to hire. And you know how to hire, man. I mean, I think that's so important, because I mean, and again, so you just have to look out. I mean, like, look out your window or look on your computer screen for 5 seconds and see how many web designers there are in the world, right? Like, that are some totally struggling, some doing really well, some like at every level, right? And I think the ones. So this is an interesting topic I want to kind of bring up to you, and this is something I was thinking about with you. Is it because it's conversion rate optimization? Like, that is, to me, man, it's like a science. Like, you can never know everything about that, right? Obviously, I don't think. I think Conversion Excel is probably the closest thing to sort of like a institution that kind of like brings this stuff to the forefront, right, of anything. Like, they're just like, you're sometimes I'm reading stuff. I mean, I'll be totally honest, sometimes I'm reading shit on there and I'm like,
what is this?
This is advanced. Like, I don't know, like, I have no idea how to approach this, right? But again, too, you have to kind of remember, I guess, the markets, because if you're going after like an enterprise level thing where there's traffic sources coming from all over the place and they have like Google Data Studio and you need like AI to part, whatever, this is like a whole nother world, right? The more kind of say, coaches and smaller businesses or medium businesses, stuff like that, they obviously don't have that amount of complexity. But what I was going to ask you is kind of like establishing the value, like in web design. Okay, so like, I guess just to explain to everyone listening, it's like sort of like web design. You got kind of hard ROI products and services, and then you got kind of soft ROI products and services, right? In general, like in B2B, you got these hard ROI. I will triple your money in 2 weeks, right? I will like 5x your revenue. I'll 5x your revenue, your current revenue, in 3 months. I will, right? It's like hard ROI. Like, through my system, you will get at least, this ROI. And then you got kind of more soft ROI. So you got branding. Like, branding is massive. People think branding is a logo. Branding is like the whole thing. It's like the community, everything, the story, the communication, the community, the whole, like, everything, right? And even the company culture, right, is like internal things, external things. But it's not hard ROI. Like, you can't tell someone, I'm going to make you a new brand, I'm going to work on your branding and your message, and you're going to triple your money overnight. Like, I'm going to triple your money in 3 months even, right? It's like, it may take 3 years to see some kind of like real return, but it may take 3 days also, in a way. So I'm kind of curious, like, your vision of kind of like establishing the value in web design and funnel design, the things you've been doing, and maybe like the evolution of that as well. Like, where you got going with that, where you were like, I'm selling websites, right? Like we all were. I'm selling websites. You need a website, right? To what you're doing now, where you're kind of like, you're sort of like extracting this value to make a real, like, a soft, hard ROI hybrid somewhere in the middle where what you're doing now. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts on that, on just the value that you can bring.
So I fell in that exact position, right? I was like, okay, websites are, and you've given it the perfect term, too soft ROI. They're too soft. I would go on Twitter and say, I make websites, all good, and then everyone's like, oh, well, what's my return? Like, if I give you $5,000 today, then when do I get that back? And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't have an answer, right? So I was like, oh, and that's where but like, the answer in itself is like, you do receive it back, because those 50 sales that came are probably because you now have a trusted site. Like, it's too not trackable, it's unmeasurable, so that people get a little, the people now, measure everything, where's my ROI from drinking or making my own coffee or going out and buying it, right? That's people track ROI down to that. So I had that realization, and I'm like, all right, what can I do to give a direct turnaround and say, all right, you were doing this and now you're doing this thanks to me? Like, that's what I needed to figure out. And I landed on one, landing pages, because it's just one page that I can track. So my problem was coming from, I was making 20 pages. Which one was moving the needle? I didn't know.
Right.
because I was just following
Well,
I was
and
following what
try logging into Google Analytics and like telling someone
I,
that
yeah.
definitively, right? Like,
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out Google Analytics, let alone a client. Like it's impossible, right? So
yeah.
I'm like, all right, let's build one page. Let's build one page that people preferably are already running ads to. Like they're already running ads, so let's build a page they can run ads directly to, so we
Yep.
can see their, all the Facebook statistics, which is not my world. That's someone that I've now brought into the team's world. Like they do that. That's their thing.
Sure.
They just look at the Facebook and the Instagram and the TikTok ads and are they profitable? That's one side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin is the actual landing page converting? So when we get clicks, like that's the Facebook ads job, they get us the clicks to the site.
Yep.
Is that turning into customers? So those are two metrics that I can track pretty easily. Like obviously it takes a while to learn, but once you get it figured out, you can track them pretty easily, and you can say definitively, when you used our service, your Facebook, cost or click-through rate, not click-through rate, conversion rate went up from 2% to all that. Yeah. All the CTR, CPAs, all that.
Everything.
But, yeah. Your conversion rate goes up 2%, 3%. Your average order value is this. We just made you this. And then that's why I went this route, because I was like, if we can do that and we can definitively say this is the result we provide you and your company, and then we productize the systems, and by saying I posted a thread the other day or yesterday about how I structure my landing pages. That's my system for building the site, so I can systemize how I build them. Obviously, creativity comes from your constraints, right? So those are my constraints. If I can stick to that, creativity is easy. So I've systemized that part. Now I need to systemize the conversion rate part. Then I have a business, because I'm providing a result through a system and I can train other people on it. I remove myself from a business. So that's when you start going from freelancer to business, right? So that's where I'm at.
And I want to take a step back too, because I think what you said there is super important. I think for anybody listening, it's incredibly important. I think it's like, so we're talking about websites, right, with multiple pages a second ago, and we're talking about blogging, and we're talking about SEO, and we're talking about a pretty complex organism when you look at it, right? Like if you're to sort of expand that out on a wall or something like a map, and like look at that, you're like kind of like, oh shit, okay, there's a lot going on here, right? A lot of paths to conversion and what you're saying is that in order, and we'll get into this in a second, because I want to know how you're getting customers. I want to know even beyond Twitter. I mean, obviously you have this organic thing happening, but other methods you're using. But in the beginning, in that sales process, what you're doing is simplifying the thing down so that there's really only one input, there's one output, and that output is what you're selling, basically. And so you've simplified the whole thing. Now, once you've proven that, once you've done that, once that's a system, not a system in your business, but just like a system in general, right? It's in their business, so to speak.
Exactly.
At that point, then you're able to go, okay, what's next? Like now we can help you with the more complex sides of it that are a bit more soft ROI, because we've proven and we built a system for the hard ROI in a sense, right? So, and I would try to call that an offer. I would try to call that's your offer, right? That's that simple intro offer. You can come to someone and go, hey, we redesigned these guys' landing page. Their conversions went from XYZ to ABC, and ABC is obviously much better. Why don't we talk about what you're doing right now, right? And it's just like a no-brainer. I guess it's that no-brainer offer that you're bringing where, shit, if it's better than their old thing and they can pour the same traffic and get more return from it,
why not? Yeah.
It's a no fucking brainer, right? So I wanted to break that down, and then you're talking about systemizing all these different things, and in a way, doing that is also simplifying, right? Like right now, you're managing sort of like the interface side, the UI side, you could call it, right, and sort of the conversion side, and then you got someone driving the traffic, and so it's like these different components, man. Once they get oiled and turned into these little machines, you really don't need, like you said, and I'm curious, like maybe we'll get into the getting clients things in one second, because I have a question actually for you. Like, so as far as staying small, like I think one thing that we've mentioned here that is something that I also kind of like am sort of into, and maybe it's a web designer thing. I don't really know, but one thing I really love too is kind of having a small team, is having like a small organism that's easy to sort of control each element, and it's not this kind of really disparate thing where like I'm relying only on training and sort of Notion documents to sort of get people up to speed and stuff, especially on something as complex and almost as subjective or something as this is, right? So I'm kind of curious, like, what's your vision for the future of sort of what you're building? Because right now it's fairly small. It sounds like it's just basically a handful of dudes. And what I'm curious is sort of where you see it going. Do you see this thing scaling to where you have multiple employees and multiple clients, or do you see this more as a horizontal thing where you're looking to keep the team relatively small but make your clients rock stars and sort of scale within your clients, or charge more and get bigger clients? I'm kind of curious, sort of like how you see that from your perspective.
It's an excellent question, because I don't have a solid answer, because who knows, right? But I see it. I see it as this, and this has been my theory since I first got into this. I said, if I can learn to build the engine, I can plug anything into I can put my engine in any car and it's going to run. So like if I can build a Lamborghini style engine, I can put that thing in any Lamborghini business and let it run, right? So if I learn to get good conversions, make good offers, create amazing looking design and styling like that, if I go and buy a SaaS product from Microacquire for, whatever, 10, 50 grand, I can plug that into my system and away we go. So that's my long-term thinking. My short-term thinking for actual like Conversion King, like the brand and the website is to scale to a point where me and the other guys involved are making a solid MRR so we can follow and pursue other projects, like, and not to leave, but to fulfill that side of, the entrepreneurial heart, where it's like, I want to build my own projects and just see what happens. So, and we're all kind of like that. We all have that curiosity. So it was more just an opportunity engine of like, we want to be able to do other things, but also provide good work and know that we're providing good work. So we'll probably more so scale horizontally, make our current clients that we're working with great, use that leverage to meet amazing people, and then we can plug those amazing people into our engine, which would then scale vertically, like you said, or we're charging then 30, 50, whatever per thing, because we're working with huge businesses. And we're providing a lot more landing pages than just one for a course. We're providing 50 for a whole SKU of products. Or we take the model that we're using with these big businesses, we go and use the revenue and the capital that we've gained, purchase an asset and plug it into our own engine, and then that becomes the business. So we have two options, but I'm not sure which way it'll go yet.
I love it. I love the thought process though that you're going through. I think it's really this is so important, man. I mean, anybody listening to this, I think it's just people don't talk about this stuff very often. I think these options that you have straight up, like I think, like we were talking about with scale, I think people get so obsessed with scale. It's how can I get 100 clients? It's not how can I, because again too, like productize, you had mentioned the word productize a while back. And I think, obviously as a service provider, there's a lot of sort of like, pressure on you or you're putting on yourself, or something else is putting on you. That's like, I need to productize this. I need to make this repeatable and easy and just kind of deliverable by anybody off the street. Right. And there's an advantage to that in certain situations, but
but there's some disadvantages too.
For example, with web design, like, and also I'll bring cold outreach into it too, since I kind of, I ran an agency doing like, LinkedIn and, cold email type stuff for folks and for different kind of B2B sectors. It's like, I see a parallel there where, people used to try to productize that kind of thing as a service, and you just can't do it now, right? Because it's like, it's so
too
personalized. You're right. It needs to be so tailored to that specific situation, and it needs to be tested, and different. It needs creativity comes into the mix, right? And not everybody off the street is creative. I hate to say it. It's like creativity is like a real weird thing. You need to like it's like a muscle or something. You have to train it all the time, right? And so what you're doing, man, I don't think it's like you can't just pull anybody off the street and.
No, definitely not. We've actually tried. We've actually tried and failed. to be honest. So
Same.
I think my thinking around creativity is the more constraints, the more creative you are. So
Right.
if I say like, and look at that Jack Butcher, he's a perfect
Oh
example,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he says, I think I actually stole creativity constraints from him, right? But
Sure.
anyway, if the more constraints you put, like he uses black backgrounds with white text and shapes, right? And
Yes.
one font. So
Yes.
he's created $1 million business on the back of one font and two colors.
Yep.
Amazing, like
Yep.
amazing. But
Yep.
you can model, you can take that and you can say, all right, how can I apply that to my business? And that's by creating constraints. Every website we make, and I refer the thread I put up the other day, I use that same framework every time, but it always looks different because I take my constraint and I do what I can with it, which is
right.
Yeah, like, you know, so that's how you can outsource creativity, but you need to be really, really good at explaining and conceptualizing how you're creative. Like I'm lucky because I have a systems analytics sort of brain. I can sort of watch what I'm doing creatively and convert that to a system. It obviously takes so much repetition to figure it out because patterns start to emerge. But from like a cold outreach standpoint, from a web design standpoint, it doesn't matter. You got to look at what you're doing creatively and then try and pull and extract the frameworks out of it. And then rather than trying to sell those and sell them in a course and stuff like that, you want to take those and like chisel them into perfect statues that you can then repeatably go back to, and your product will be good every time because you've systemized your creativity, or at least systemized a way to get yourself into that flow state. Like you've built
and like
that.
you're saying, constrict the creativity and make it more potent, right? Because for instance, with a web design, I mean, you've got psychology, you've got like human psychology you're dealing with, right? You're dealing with human beings who like have certain biases, who, you know, as sad or even kind of evil as it can sound sometimes. I think even that people are so predictable and all this kind of stuff. You know, I love that documentary Century of the Self. If you haven't checked that, I highly recommend it, because he's kind of going through, you know, the you know, creation of advertising and sort of like human psychology, and sort of playing into, you know, when people in the 50s were all trying to be the same, it was like advertising like be this, you know, but then as like, you know, the 80s and 90s, people have more of an individual thing. Okay, come and customize the Ford and do it in your own funky color. And, you know, just this kind of like the way things evolve. And I think that, like you're saying, constricting yourself, going, okay, yeah, we have a hero here. No matter what, at the top is going to be a hero section, right? Like we need to hit him with a headline, right? We need to hit him with something. And so like, let's get creative within that section, but it's still a hero, right? And then you're just using those as building blocks. I love that. I love how and I love how simplification is like, it seems like simplifying things. I mean, maybe it's that systems analyst kind of background, but
dude, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not smart. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like I'm not. That could be the quote of the episode. Me just saying I'm not smart, but like I'm not, man. But you don't have
I
to
concur.
be.
I'm also not smart, so let's agree there.
I'm trying to say you don't have to be super highly intelligent to be successful. You just need to understand that there are simple processes, and then you just need to have the confidence to go and chase after it, and the confidence to fail, because it's iteration that's got me to this point. It has not been, oh, Cam got lucky and he made a good site for a famous guy on Twitter and now he's successful. Because like, I don't even consider myself like where I want to be successful as, but people will look at it and point the finger and say, oh, you're only successful because of this. It's like, no, I'm successful because I failed and I've adjusted.
Like,
and
what's behind that? What's behind that site, right?
Exactly.
How much blood, sweat, and tears is behind that site, right?
But yeah, you just got to simplify it down, man. Simplify it down. Make it so that it's so stupidly simple that the person that's looking at it can kind of go, I could do that, and then you're just like, yeah, you could, but I'm just really, really good, and I've done it so many times at it. Like, that's what you do.
And real quick to add to that, you do it really, really fast, I would imagine, right? You do it really, really fast. I think speed is one of those things for businesses, especially, man. I mean, if they can do something faster, they'll pay, man. I mean, it's almost all about speed at some point as well. Like the quality, like the quality. I mean, you could maybe get similar quality from somewhere else, but maybe they don't have the systems like as chiseled as you said. It's like, man, you're simplifying the right things, and you're not letting. And again, I don't think it's being smart or being stupid or being whatever. I think it's more just it's being adventurous. It's being, like you said, not afraid to fail. I think. There's something that comes in with sort of like education, like in the education system when you go to college, when you go to school and stuff, and you're like, I didn't go to college myself, but I know people that tell me they kind of like, there's this fear of like getting an F or fear of failing, or they kind of ingrain this in you where you kind of feel, no, I have to go down the safe road, right? And it's that programming that has to be undone. You have to undo so much of that program to be able to just go, okay, cool. Like you said, run real fast, trip, fall, and then you just start kind of picking shit up along the way, right? Like, and it's just at the end, you get to the bottom of the hill and there's another hill, right? It's just like it never ends. And so really curious, like just to kind of start wrapping it up. I'm curious. So, I mean, this is so fun. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I think so far the takeaways on my end is just simplification, man. Like not overthinking, God, there's no verb for it, but not making things too complex, over complexifying. Fuck, I don't know. But anyway, not making things too complex, because I think people tend to like. I'll talk about offers a lot with people, and they'll go, "Yeah, but how do I create the perfect offer? And what do I have to like?" And it's like, man, like the perfect offer is just something that you can say in like a sentence that. Is just a no-brainer for somebody. Like, I'll double your money, or we'll see. This will either convert better, or I'll give you your money back. How about that? Like, right? Like, I'll give you your goddamn money back. Like, it's not that much work for me to create a landing page, and it's not that much, right? And as you scale, obviously, as you start to grow, but again, like you said, it depends on how you scale. I love this conversation, man, because there's so many little elements, like the simplification. The choosing how to scale, or the choosing when to scale, or the choosing to scale or not to scale. Like there's, I think a lot of people that are totally happy as freelancers and make a lot of money freelancing, frankly.
While you're on that, I want to touch on that, man, because
please,
I want to put a public service announcement out there. If you're going into web design, please just freelance at least to like 50K. Get some money under your belt. Like I'm lucky enough that I had prior money from what I was doing to put into this, right? If I didn't have that, I would have been screwed. So please do not jump the freelance to agency thing straight away. Like some people can do it, some people can do it, but I want to warn people and say, like, if you do that, there is risk involved. There should be a disclaimer on every tweet, like,
there should be
that says like, hey, like, chill with the scaling just to begin and just freelance to start and get your feet wet, because when problems happen, if you don't have money to throw at that problem, you are going to be in trouble, because like that's the reality of business. There's a reason 9 out of 10 businesses fail, because the capital is needed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, man, I'll add to that PSA part 2 here. Raise your prices, man, especially when you're getting started. I think I was the same way, man. I mean, I dropped out of high school and just started doing this shit. So I was just like, bang, I had no capital, I had no nothing. I was like eager to get the hell out of my hometown, out of my parents' house. Like I was just like on a mission, right? And it was like, man, I was charging so little, it made it really hard in the beginning. It was like, and of course, like you said, until you're really confident, you kind of don't feel like you can really charge that much money. But man, like even in the beginning, I think there's this calculation that you have to make where you go like, okay, yes, they're paying me to learn in some aspect. Yes, but at the same time, I'm sure by the time you were charging clients, you were already, how many hours did you put in learning this shit by then? Hundreds? Hundreds, easily hundreds, if not thousands. Like, dude, reading Conversion Excel blog, reading this, looking at Smashing magazine, whatever it is, right, in web design, whatever sector you're in. But you're just looking at shit, looking at agencies, looking at stuff, looking at sites, trying to remodel the site, do the thing, right, like doing things for free, redoing. A lot of the kids are doing, redoing the Nike site, right, UI, redoing. There's a lot of like Dribble and all these things, and people doing this kind of thing. I mean, I think there's all these hours that go into that, leading up to when you offer it to a client. And I think there's this imposter syndrome that kicks in at that point where you go, 100%. Oh shit, the rubber's hitting the road. I'm about to like, holy shit, right? I have to like perform now. But man, take a breath. I think people have to take a breath and kind of go, shit, man, I have to charge what I'm worth even at this point, because it's been thousands of hours and there's something unique about me. Maybe I don't know what it is yet, but these experiences are going to bring that out, right? Like, I think there's something very unique about what you're doing, Cam, and the vision that you have of a web design company. Let's put it that way. You talked about acquiring a SaaS on MicroAcquire, implementing the systems that you've created through, lots of client engagements and things like this, and then using those same principles to like mold a business that you enjoy running, and you're on the beach in Oz, with like some chick in a bikini. You're like living life, right? Like you're loving it.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
It's huge. That's a huge way to think about it, though. And I think, especially when you're first getting going, you don't have that capital. You're like, fuck, man, I gotta where's the clients? How do I get the client? Facebook groups. You're like all over the damn place, right? Everything. I know I was trying everything. You got cold outreach. You're trying to do audits. People don't want your audits. You're like fucking crying at night. And then one day something clicks. So, but I think raising those prices in the beginning just gives you some capital also to work with, where shit, man, it doesn't have to be so hard. You might have a little bit of leeway in the feast or famine thing that I know that
I think so the perfect price point for me is probably 3.5 to 5K for a site. I charge that now for landing pages, but that comes with a bit of extra sprinkle on top. If you're just building a site, if you're if you're just starting out, I wouldn't go any lower than that, to be honest, because it probably takes around 20 to 40 hours. And then if you do all the math, that probably works out to getting paid at a relatively decent hourly rate. So if you're looking to get into it, start charging that, because the reality is, if you have low overhead cost in your living arrangement, like if you're not renting a crazy car or on a crazy car lease or renting a crazy apartment,
right?
Just first of all, live a chill life, man. Don't get all that debt, crazy stuff. I'm lucky I don't have it, because that has allowed me to do this. If you're listening to that and you're in that position, freelance to get out of that position and then do it. But
or get a job, or get a goddamn job. Go find a sick company and go get paid to learn this shit, and then go. I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of crazy. I think back to those days, man, and I felt like I was unemployable. Like, I remember being like in that position and being like, who the fuck is going to employ me? I dropped out of high school. I have no credential. Nobody knows nothing. And it's like at that point, man, I could have easily, now it's so much easier now, post COVID and everything with the remote work. And now it's like, it's a no brainer, man. You could go work for like a really established tech company, do UI for their landing pages, watch ad traffic come through, not have to be too you're not too stressed about the result. It's not your ad budget, right? You're not spending the ads. So I agree though, man. 3.5K, I totally agree, man. I think that's a great place to start for a 10-page website or something like that, right? For a company.
The reality is, like, what I was gonna say is, like, I didn't have too much high overhead at first, because I'm thankful enough to be in the position I'm in. So I just had to make 2 sites a month, and I was making good money. So I was like, okay, I'm living a happy life. Now let's see how I can scale this. So the goal of everyone getting into this should just be like, all right, how can I live a happy life first and then scale? Like, be happy first, because you make better decisions when you're happy. Like, if you're upset and you're, I'm in the grind, and if it feels like a grind to you, just scale it back a bit. Drop the overhead. Do less. Yeah.
Fire one of the bad clients, right? Fire one of the bad clients. Try to focus on the good ones and scale within that. I agree so much with you, man. This is another huge takeaway, man, that you brought to the table. I think it's living frugal, man. We live in a society where everybody wants to be balling, you know what I mean? This is like, and I know you're coming from the the basketball background, man, truly balling. And how it's just sort of like everybody's program, but man, we got to relax a little bit. I know the feeling too, is like when I got going, man, I didn't have a car for a long time. Like, I just, I was just roughing it, like just living as straight, low key as humanly possible, and just stacking those skills, getting a couple of clients. So to bring it kind of to one other point I wanted to bring to you was, so you're getting, obviously Twitter, I have to imagine, is bringing you some clients. I'd love to hear how you're doing client acquisition. I think that there's a lot of people out there, like, maybe all these takeaways are good so far. Hey man, I live pretty cheap. Yeah, 3,500. I could charge that for the site. I'm feeling pretty confident. you know, how if you were getting started today, we could frame the question that way. How would you go out there and get like your first client, and what do you see as the most valuable sort of actions that you can take, yesterday to get that
Yeah.
process going?
So the biggest thing is obviously having the portfolio. Everyone wants to see it. Like I understand. Like
Yep.
I don't even have like a portfolio of myself, just our company, like what we've produced now. But in the beginning, I had 3 sites that I would go and say, look, this is what I've done.
Yep.
Because you just need a leg to stand on, because the goal is to get the conversation. That's what the cold outreach does, is to get the conversation to occur, start the conversation. Once the conversation started, what are you going to talk about? So you need at least something to talk about. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm learning websites, let me build you one. It's not going to go too well. So at least have something to. And with Webflow and stuff, man, like the reason I like it is because you can just move so quick. Like you can build templates, you can use templates and go and adjust them to whatever industry you're in. And you could go and mock up a draft and send that to someone and say, look, I've already built your site. Let's get on a sales call and see how we can adjust it. That's a brilliant offer. If you start out with that, like, sorry, there's a jet going over me. I hope that's not too loud.
All good.
But yeah, anyway, if I was just starting out, I would go and build. I would really, really niche down first of all. I would really just pick one offer that I know a lot about and start selling. Start building templates for that industry, and then I would just go and just hit it hard, like Twitter DMs outreach, Instagram DM outreach. And what a really effective way is to actually screen record the template you've made and like plug in that business that you're focusing on and say like, here's that business. So that's what I would do if I was just starting out.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And I think showing not telling, right? Like in a sense, like showing the and also one thing I would add to that's really interesting these days too is that I think people really want to learn, like I think more and more, like we were talking about earlier, the B2B buyer these days, they want to learn. They want to be educated in the process. They're not just like, oh yeah, whatever, cool, yeah, here, go do it. Yeah, whatever, launch it. I don't want to hear about it. It's cool. They kind of more hands-on in the process nowadays, like where they kind of want to understand a little bit about it. So showing them the template you made, and then also showing why this is superior to what they have now, right? Showing the improvements and the psychology behind it a little bit, giving them a little bit of the secret sauce, frankly, like where you can kind of go, hey, so. But showing, not telling.
Tell people what strategies you're using that make you better. Yeah. And go and learn those strategies, but then put together a little pitch and say like, yeah, like we add this in the hero section because it increases conversions on this site A, B, and C by 20%. We add an emoji to the button because it increases conversions. We, all those little things, and the more you demonstrate expertise, and when you read a book and then it becomes your knowledge, it is your expertise. People don't want to, they're paying you to not read that book. They're paying you not to sit and read 20 Twitter threads. They're paying you not to sit through hours and hours of YouTube tutorials. Just because you've learned it from somewhere doesn't mean it's not your expertise to then regurgitate and reframe in your own words. Like, God, I've learned so much from like Jack Butcher design wise. I've learned so much from like Yusuf on Twitter from Web Design World. I've learned so much from Sam Thompson from his web design stuff. Like obviously he does a lot more than web design, but he's taught me a lot of web design stuff just off his threads. But the business owners that I'm working for are paying me to not have to go through that and practice that.
Man, great point as well. And I think it also kind of ties into that, like, thousands of hours before that first client. It's like it keeps compounding, right? Like you're trying to be an expert and you're working. You love this shit. And obviously, it shows that you love this stuff. I mean, this is serious, and you actually love it. So you're ingrained into it. You're in the world. You're looking everything to, like, I know for me anyway, like anytime I click an ad, going like, I want to see the landing page. What's the landing page look like? Or when I'm outside and I'm looking at a billboard, I'm going like, why is the copy like that? Like that? Yeah. Right. Or even like skateboarding or basketball, like we were talking about earlier, I look at, like, I'll see like a little embankment or something, and I'm like, shit, I like to skateboard on that, right? And like most people aren't thinking like that. So it's like you're training your mind in different ways, and that is valuable because these people are coming in and kind of going, I don't like, we just need this shit to convert better, or we're kind of just tired of our old website, or like this thing has been a ClickFunnels website for 5 years, and we're kind of like growing beyond that. How do we do this? And so I think that's a great point. That's a really great point. Just all the time and the passion that you put in, like passion becomes a unique sales proposition in a sense at that point as well.
Yeah,
like I'm more passionate than the next dude.
I spent the weekend fixing my pool, and I was fixing it. I hate that. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. The guy I paid, he walked in with the biggest smile on his face, and he's out there cleaning the pool. He's getting it all fixed up and getting everything fixed. And I paid him the money, and he's like, "Thanks, man. Like, have a good day." People will pay you to be passionate about the job, because if you're passionate about what you do, you're going to do a good job, right? And I'll tell you what, that pool is clean, man. I walked out there this morning. I was like, yes, sir. This man did a good job. Like,
I got a good pool cleaner, man. Yeah, good guy.
So he likes what he does, man. And he probably makes way more money than people would expect, by the way, because he charged me quite a bit. But anyway,
because of that, Pat, right? But he's able to charge that because he's kind of in his own league. He's not just like selling pool cleaning. He's all about it, and he can tell you every detail of how he finishes that off or whatever. Man, I saw this really funny like British joke the other day. They're like, the guy was saying like, man, I'm tripping on some of these plumbers, man. Like they're over here like they got one hand in here and they're like fixing the pipe and they're like eating a turkey sandwich with the other hand. They're like multi. They're just like they just live, eat, breathe, and shit this stuff, man. And like it shows, and so they can charge the premium. Whereas somebody who's just comes in like, oh yeah, I can build your website. And it's like a theme forest template, and it's like, where's the passion?
Yeah. Where's the passion? Where's the love and like in basketball and probably skateboarding as well, there's like a saying like, I have love for the game. Like like there's love for the game. So I play now. I don't get paid to play now, but like I play now just for the love of the game. So like you need to have that passion in order to and that's the reason I used to get paid, right? Because I had love for the game, like because I would do anything to be successful out of respect for it. So you need to have that ability when it comes to your service business. Like, don't just do it because it makes you money. Like, yes, you'll make maybe 5K, 10K, or some people hit the jackpot and get lucky. It is what it is.
Hey,
but on average, if you don't like what you're doing, you're gonna quit too early to see success, and then again, if you see some success and you still don't enjoy it, you're not going to live a happy life. You're going to be making 10, 12K, but you're going to hate what you're doing.
I think it's something to bring to the table too, that like, entrepreneurship. Okay. You had it sounded like you had some pretty cushy jobs. Like you could have just been like, fuck it, I'm a systems analyst, right? Like I don't technically love it, and these companies are huge and faceless, but shit, fuck it, I'm here, right? Like this kind of thing. Entrepreneurship is, there's a lot of holes, potholes, and walls that you hit, and shit that's like flying at you, like, at all times, man. I feel like people kind of don't think that. They think that like, oh no, and I think there's a lot of rhetoric, out in social media as well, that's sort of in gurudom, that's kind of this rhetoric that 9-to-5s are terrible. Don't ever fuck with 9-to-5. Right? Like 9-to-5s can give you such a framework for even what you're doing. Or, I mean, like, I don't know, the 9-to-5s I had, man, all they did was teach me that like, I don't want to do that. I fucking do not want to do that. That's the last shit I want to do. I want to do something else. And just that feeling, right? Like seeing what you don't like can lead you towards what you do like. Like there's no wrong path, and man, when you need money, you need money, and sometimes like the closest thing you can get is what you need to do. But I think emphasizing that the passion, man, you'll hit these walls, but if you have the passion, you can fucking climb the wall. If you don't have the passion, the wall just knocks you down, and you're like, why did I fucking even start doing this? You know what I mean? And it makes you question everything. You can get really depressed. It's like, man, and I've seen a couple of, people kind of dropping stuff like that against passion. I've seen a few tweets specifically that were kind of like, go after the money first. Don't go after the passion, because the passion will. And I go, nah, dude, no matter what, go after the passion, because why are you going to be an entrepreneur at all if you don't have the passion what you're doing, I guess, right? Just go get the 9-to-5.
You need to be in both camps. You need to be a passionate person. I'm super passionate. about my own personal freedom. So what does that like? And then I had to reverse engineer that, right? I'm like, what does that mean to me? All right, that means I need to make a significant amount of money to be able to buy my freedom and my time back. So I was like, okay, because I'm super passionate about that, whatever I do to make that money, I need to be just as passionate about that in order to, it all works in together. So if you're super passionate about personal freedom, because I know a lot of people will hear you say that and they'll be like, oh no, I disagree. I can grind through anything. And it's like, sure, you can. So take that grind mentality and apply that to what you're doing, but allow that grind and that want and that will to turn into passion for what you're doing, because you're only going to deliver good product when you're passionate. So there's going to be two people listening to this, people that are like, yes, I'm in it for the love of the game. And then people, I'm in it for the love of the money. Take that love of the money and realize that if you don't turn it into passion for the game, you're not going to succeed. Like we had people that were like, when I was growing up playing, they were just trying to make the NBA, and they weren't trying to make the NBA because they like basketball. They were trying to make the NBA because they like money, which is cool. And there's people in the NBA, I know 100% for a fact, that do not like basketball and they still get paid millions of dollars a year. But there's few majority, because in order to scale those walls, like you said, you need to be passionate. So if you're listening to this and I like, if this is the only thing you take away, make sure that you convert your love of money and your love of and your want of all the shiny things into passion for what you do. Even if you hate it, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. But that doesn't mean you fake expertise until you make it. It means you fake enjoying what you like. I hate running. I hate going for a run. But every time I'm running, if I just repeated to myself, I love running, it's eventually going to get stuck in my mind that I love it. So
it's true, man. And if things really don't, like, I think if you really are forcing yourself, like I know that feeling, man, so well, just like being like, nah, I love it. Like I'm just gonna make myself love it, because I can program my brain, right? I'm not like some static individual, right? So I'll program it. I'll go, and Cool Keith, man. If anybody listening, there's a hilarious video. I don't know if you know. Do you know Cool Keith, the rapper?
I don't know.
He's a classic rapper, man. From the 90s and everything. But he has this video on YouTube that always cracked me up, where he's talking about people coming over to the house, and he's got the fridge there, and they're coming over there, and they open the fridge, and if you got the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi and the cakes and the nice stuff, the Oreos, all the shit that people like, you know what I mean, in the fridge, everybody eats it all and drinks it all, right? They're just like, oh yeah, let me get some of this right here. And he was saying, what I like to do is put, like seltzer water in my fridge, and like some weird cookies, like oatmeal cookies that look kind of weird and shit, in the fridge, and then and I don't really love them at first, but I train myself to love them, because then when people come over, they're like, what the hell? No, I don't want any of this, and then I get to enjoy what I enjoy. Like, I program myself to enjoy. It's this very, very funny story, but like in this sense, in the beginning, you really have to do that, I think, to a certain extent. Like, and also it'll guide you to your passion. Like in the back of your head, you're like, I'm doing this now. There may hit a point where I'm just like, I have to quit. I'm like, dude, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. And you know what you're going to go do. And then at that point, you just go 100,000. And just that's another testament as to why scaling too early can be a problem, right? Because if you dig that hole too deep and then you realize halfway through, oh man, I actually hate this shit, what are you going to do then? I've done it, dude. It sucks. It is so demoralizing. So it's so much better just to explore stuff. And I think that's another thing too, where I see a lot of people saying, like, obviously niching down when you're going is so important. But there's this point, I think, when you're first getting started, where it's like, you kind of want to have any experience you possibly can. It's sort of like in the beginning, you have to say yes to everything. And then later on, you have to say no to like 90%. But in that very beginning, man, sometimes like, man, I know I discovered a lot of things that I really love that I did, like sales, for example. Like I fell in love with sales. I started doing sales and I was like, whoa, I'm pumping here. I'm doing this is fun. Like, I get to talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And same reason I wanted to do this podcast, because just talking with cool people is just so fun. And, you get to kind of see another side of things and blah, blah, blah. So in the beginning, I think there's that experiential, get the experience. Later on, you can niche down into what you enjoyed doing before and what felt right to you and what you felt like you could grow into and all that kind of stuff. So, great. That's why I put myself in a position where I can just, I can either take this to the moon, or I can spread this thin and like, scale it out and get employees and all that stuff. Or we can take whatever we want to, whatever passion comes along. If there's something amazing comes along, I can plug it in.
I can plug it in and I can go. So, and that goes for lead gen, that goes for like Facebook ads, that goes for content creation, anything. You can do any service business, but you can then build your engine to the point where you can plug anything into it. So don't just pigeonhole yourself is what I'm saying. Like don't just focus.
Right, and maybe you hit a point where you end up wanting to coach kids on basketball, man. Who the hell knows, right? You end up,
that's my other passion. That's why I think I'm like this way, like because of that reason. So eventually I'll get there.
Love it, man. Well, let's wrap it up here. This has been an amazing conversation, man. I really enjoyed it. I think you're a humble dude. You're a talented dude in many ways. I mean, from the basketball to the web design to the conversions to the everything, right? It's like shit, man. You're kind of like the modern day Renaissance man in a way, and I think that's something to strive for everybody in a way. You know what I mean? Like you want to master several things, not to be a jack of all trades, but just to have that background so that you can step into an organization and be able to like move shit around, and later on hiring gets easier. Blah blah blah. Right? Just knowing that stuff. Yeah. And it's really epic to talk to you, man. So like, let's wrap up by you giving us a little bit, like, where can we check you out? I know on Twitter you're at Cam Duncan with 2 N's, right? Is that correct?
It's four N's at the end.
Four N's at the end, guys. 4 N's. All right,
Cam. There was 3 before me, so I had to.
You're waiting in line still.
Yeah.
CamDuncann. All right, on Twitter. And what else, man? What else you want to plug here? I know you're making a big transition here right now, so it's really we didn't really get to touch on that too much. But if you want to even just wrap up by talking about that, that'd be great.
Sure. So basically, what I'm doing now, like I mentioned in the podcast, I'm just building landing pages strictly for businesses that are running paid media to any sort of offer. If you're running an offer for SaaS, for B2B, for e-com, we can handle anything really because of the scaling. We've jumped that scaling hurdle. So there, obviously that offers on the plate, but I'm actually going into now personally my own transition point where I'm starting to teach people how to do this. So if people are interested, if people are looking to get into web design and not make the same mistakes, because I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've thankfully overcome them. If you want to learn, the problems to avoid, but also how to overcome them, I'm running a coaching offer as well. So, and at this point, the only way to really get into that is to DM me through Twitter, because I'm just testing it for now to make sure that we're getting, I don't need to sell coaching to make my money. I just want to help people, but I also need to, obviously recuperate from my time as well. So there's, the coaching offer is out there as well. So I'm only doing those 2 things for now.
Okay, great, man. Great. Well, it's Conversion Kings, right? What's the URL there? Conversion Kings.
Conversion, just King. So not Kings.
Apologies.
Couldn't get Kings, unfortunately, but king.io.
Conversionking.io. Conversionking.io. And we got DM to that Twitter, that handle, that Cam Duncan with 4 and that Cam Duncan Twitter there. Fantastic, man. I'm really excited to see where you go with everything. I want to thank you also for being so, for being active in the Cold Crowd group as well. I know,
I try my best to jump in.
Well, your presence being there is awesome, man. And I know that, if people come with web design questions, it's fantastic to have somebody that, can, we can get a couple different angles on it too. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a few folks, you and me included, that sort of have a background in web design. It's fantastic, man. So I want to thank you again, man, for being here. Best of luck with everything. I know we'll do another one of these and we'll check in with you and see which direction you win in, because I am I'm kind of on the edge of my seat, man, to see where you end up going with this, because I think all the options are great, and it's just it's so inspiring, I think, for people to be able to see that there isn't just one way to scale a business and have 100 clients. There is a way to transfer what you're doing and that energy that you've built up and put that into different kinds of shit, and maybe some stuff that you're truly passionate about that just goes like parabolic on you. Like you go, whoa, I didn't even know this was possible till I had a little bit of capital behind me, and now all of a sudden this thing is just exploding, right? I could see that just happening with you, man. So best of luck with everything, man. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to throw out, or are we good?
No, man, I just want to say thank you, because you've also helped me through my hurdles. When we first connected, I came to you with some questions, and I was just like, can you help me through? So I just want to, a testament to you and what you've built with the Cold Crowd. Just, I hope anyone that's involved in this realizes what kind of resource and person they're dealing with, because you've done a lot people don't realize. And I think, they should really be appreciative for the access that they have to you. So just wanted to
Thank you,
close on
man.
that, because
Thank
that's
you.
that's just something that goes underappreciated, is access to people that have actually done things, rather than
Yep.
having access to people that want you to have access to them. There's a major difference, and
Yeah.
you'll be able to pick it up the more involved you get in this business thing. You can see who's really legit and who's really not. So, and there's a reason I'm here today, and that's because you're legit, man. So
Cam,
let's keep.
I appreciate it so much, and back at you, man. Back at you. And I know you're still sort of like you're middle, not even middle of the way. I would want to give you actually the benefit of the doubt that you're probably still in the beginning of this amazing life that you are. I mean, you're like, you've done so much in so little time. It's going to be insane. And I think anybody that, how old are you right now, Cam? Just a
23.
23, man. So you're at 23. I mean, anybody listening to this that is younger than 23, dude, by 23, this man has amassed this much wisdom and information.
Thanks,
and expertise, man. And it's just like an inspiration, man, because, at 23, I can tell you real quick to everybody, when I was 23, I was a fucking vagabond. I was human trash at 23, man. So, believe me, man, there's a lot that you can learn, I think, from an individual like yourself. So really, thank you again for being here, man. I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording, and man, everybody, share this with somebody that can use this information, man, and keep track of what Cam's doing, man. Watch what he's doing. All the people around him too, Samuel Thompson, all these guys, Jack Butcher, like he mentioned, these guys are all brilliant people. So keep track of these dudes. Watch what they're doing. They're the real deal. Thank you so much for being here again, Cam.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Always Building. If you want to learn more about Always Building, our community, our membership group, and exclusive webinars and trainings and discounts on software and all kinds of fun stuff, get help along the journey so you're not all alone, go ahead and check out alwaysbuilding.io. That's alwaysbuilding.io. And again, thank you so much. Best of luck on your journey, and you just let me know. You can reach out to me on Twitter or via email, alex@alwaysbuilding.io, or at always_building on Twitter. Okay, thanks again. Have a great one.